Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture, and the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast. That's Rogue Wave without an E, W-A-V. Download our podcast immediately following the live stream on all major podcasting apps, or go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We are part of the Rogue Matter Podcast Network, a new digital content platform providing programming and entertainment that shatters boundaries, colors outside the lines. Our official launch is coming in October, but right now, our listeners can get in on the ground floor. Go to roguematter.com, enter your email address for exclusive access to our beta site before anyone else gets to see it. Join the movement. Go rogue, roguematter.com. As always, I'm your host, Michael Dolce, joined by my cohort in crime, the Lord of the live stream, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Everything is wonderful.
That's great that everything's wonderful because we've got a ton of stuff that just kind of funnels in. I love all the stuff that comes in. Tonight we've got the Wandavision trailer review, the Watchmen Emmys recap. We've got Disney Plus news, and we got The Boys, which is your favorite TV show on streaming right now. I know. We're going to review episodes 4 and 5, and we're going to introduce a brand new segment called Hassan's Corner, 3-minute rant. Just basically, I'm just going to let you go. It's going to be 3-minute rant. It's going to be pretty awesome. What do you think of that?
I'll save it for the rant.
I love it. Real quick before we get going, Plan 59 Kickstarter. I want to thank everyone. We are killing it, which is great. As of this morning, we're 143% funded. We've broken 2 stretch goals, which is great. We got Big Dog Inc.'s Tom Hutchinson going to come in and do a story on a backup story in this issue. So it's really great. But you can go just look up Plan 59 Kickstarter on Kickstarter and back us. We've got another stretch goal. We've got magnets and stickers. We've got a lot of tchotchkes, which people seem to like the tchotchkes a lot. So, again, go to the Plan 59 Kickstarter, and the link is right there on screen if you're watching us on the live stream. If not, again, go to Kickstarter.com and search Plan 59. I have another link because we're actually announcing another Kickstarter. I know it's back-to-back scheduling just got really weird, but this is really, really exciting. I'm announcing this is through Rogue Matter. So Plan 59 is through Dren Productions, friend of the show's James Massia. Time Trader, though, is actually the first Rogue Matter Kickstarter project, period, at all. And what is Time Trader? It's actually the Kickstarter I ran 6 years ago. It was a book called The Undone, and then Amazon went and stole my name and put a TV series on called Undone. It's about a guy who can rewind time whenever he wants to, tries to go to the stock market to cash in, discovers it's run by an Illuminati of people just like him. October 1st, it will be on Kickstarter. You can follow the page by going to sirestudios.inc.com/Kickstarter. So pretty exciting stuff. We've got so much stuff coming together. I know, Hassan, you're working on some projects with Rogue Matter as well. We can start trickling in information. It's pretty exciting, right? I mean, it's fun. Or are you going to save it for your rant?
No, that wouldn't be part of my rant. It is fun. It's strenuous, It's tough to, because it's you got to do the best job that you can possibly do, and you got to crunch it, because of deadlines and think tanking and brainstorming. Everybody getting together and putting their heads together and coming up with new ideas that make everything kind of crazy. So it's a hectic time, but it is exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm digging it. This is kind of what we get into this business for, right? Is to make comics. And the cool thing about Rogue Matter, and again, we'll be announcing
That's we keep telling ourselves.
Well, I mean, the cool thing is, again, and we will kind of trickle in more information. Rogue Matter is all about finding new talent, and really, breaking boundaries and opening doors for folks that haven't, been published before, or people who have been, but just have been doing it in a rogue kind of way for a long time and just, hasn't seen the type of exposure that maybe they deserve. So it's a cool part. It's a cool company to be part of, and it's a really exciting thing. And one last plug before we get into our Rogue Rage. Go check out Button Smash. Go check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rogue Matter. We want all the people to go on there and check out all the videos. We've got all of our podcasts up there. We got clips up there. We've got Button Smash. They're doing clips. They talk video games. They're awesome. They used to be called Bad Coyote Funky. Anyone who listened to our podcast before we became Rogue Wave, we've had them on before. We'll do a show where we have them on. We'll do a little cross promotion with them as well. And we're going to get some awesome new guests. We're going to get some Rogue Matter guests. I don't know. Just all pretty exciting stuff happening pre-launch for Rogue Matter. All right. We do this every week. It is all the rage in the pop culture world. We call this segment Rogue Rage. Disney Plus Roundup. We got a ton of Disney Plus news. She-Hulk, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Miss Marvel. We'll start with WandaVision, although we are going to review the trailer that came out next segment. The news actually concerns WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. WandaVision is going to be hitting Disney Plus before the Winter Soldier. Many fans assumed Falcon and Winter Soldier would air first, but obviously then the pandemic hit, and Disney Plus has seemingly confirmed that the series won't debut in 2020 at all. The news comes after Sebastian Stan was spotted in his full Bucky Barnes outfit in Atlanta, filming a scene on a motorbike. Unfortunately, fans will now have to wait. WandaVision will be debuting in December, and sometime in 2021, we will get to see Falcon and Winter Soldier. This is from Heroic Hollywood, giving us the rundown. My question, I know you don't know the answer to this, but pure speculation. Marvel is very deliberate in the way they release projects, right? I mean, we got Black Widow, we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, we got WandaVision. That was supposed to be the order. And now I think it's like WandaVision, maybe Black Widow. Black Widow, maybe WandaVision, depending on when they release that. They might save that. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier. Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I wonder if they're flip-flopping this. I guess it's more production, right? I guess they just never finished filming. But, I just wonder how it's going to impact. Like, what do you think is going to impact the storyline? Or is it?
All right. Is that the question? How is it going to impact the storyline, or is it going to impact the storyline?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, Marvel's usually very deliberate with this kind of stuff.
Look, the most important thing about WandaVision is that it leads into the Doctor Strange Part 2, right? The Minds of Madness or something like that. I forget exactly what the title of Doctor Who Part 2 is supposed to be.
Oh, is it the Multiverse of Madness?
The Multiverse of Madness. And
man, look at me go.
I think Wanda is supposed to be the sort of like the villain in that, because she's losing her noodle, right? She's been losing it since Endgame. So mostly because of Vision. Because of losing Vision.
Right.
So I think it leads into that. I think as long as those two things hold, I think as long as Multiverse of Madness comes out after WandaVision has debuted, then they're probably within their schedule. They're keeping their schedule. I don't think it really matters whether or not Falcon and Winter Soldier come out before or after WandaVision.
Yeah, I'm wondering, but that'll tie more into Black Widow probably, and that's kind of where I'm wondering. Like, I'm curious. Like, I'm really curious. Like, I mean, like I said, Marvel, even when they have to think on the fly, because I mean, there's been instances in the past where they've had to kind of rejigger stuff and reconfigure what they're doing, has always managed to somehow keep it to the point where the layman would be like, well, there's nothing even, like, they wouldn't even know, that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But that's not the only news that hit. She-Hulk has its leading lady, Tatiana Maslany, best known for her role in Orphan Black, and she's currently in Perry Mason. She's going to play Jennifer Walters. What do you think? Interesting.
I think that's a good choice.
Terrific actress. So I think anytime you can get a good actress in a role, it's gonna prove to be.
She's kind of an amazing actress.
She is.
I don't really think that that's going to be a challenge for her. That role is going to be much of a challenge for her.
Lawyer by day, She-Hulk by night.
Yeah, I don't think the dual identity thing is going to be anything that she hasn't tackled already. So I think she's, I'm just curious as to how they do it, because it's all about the execution. Yeah. And they've never done She-Hulk before, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mark Ruffalo has previously stated that an appearance in the series was on the table. So I think that should be pretty interesting.
There were people saying that she wasn't fit enough to be Jennifer Walters. I mean,
this is the thing, right? Like Mark
and I'm
Ruffalo is like 4 feet tall.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't the Hulk done with CG? You know, like what?
Right. Well, this isn't 1977 anymore. You know, you don't need to have Lou Ferrigno like kind of stand in.
Why like everybody immediately has like, barring I don't like that actor or I don't like that actress, you know, which is fine. Like, oh man, I can't stand so and so, and you know, I'm too bad he's going to be part of this. You know, some of the complaints that people have are just kind of they're not even thought through, in my opinion. You know, they're not very deep.
Well, okay, so, you know what? I think what you said is actually the best representation. Not thought through, because this is like what comes to mind first. Like when I think of Tatiana, Maslany, I'm like, man, she's short. Like because you picture She-Hulk. She's 7 foot tall. She's She-Hulk. She's massive. And then you picture Tatiana Maslany. But then once you actually think it through, you're like, oh yeah, Mark Ruffalo is 3 feet tall. See, I just shrunk him from the first time I mentioned his height to now, because he's a very tiny man, and somehow he managed. It hasn't affected a thing.
It hasn't affected a thing.
Right, know? Exactly. So I think
it's supposed to be the Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation where he is an unremarkable. He has an unremarkable physique compared to what he becomes. Right. So, I mean, it's fine.
Yep. And finally, Ms. Marvel adds Bad Boys for Life directors to the Disney Plus series. It's going to have the directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah to direct a couple episodes of the Ms. Marvel series. In the comics, Ms. Marvel, also known as Kamala Khan, is a Pakistani teenage girl who also happens to be an Inhuman and is the first Muslim character to headline her own book. The character specifically idolizes Carol Danvers and took up the same name as a tribute to her favorite hero. So now it's got Bad Boys for Life directors attached to it as well. Interesting part about this little write-up is that she's an Inhuman. This, for those who are uninitiated, if you're on the Facebook feed, you probably know comics pretty well. Anyone who comments on our Facebook feed tends to know the comic book stuff really well. Marvel in the 2000s, pre-2000, 2006, let's say, mutants ran the world. It was mutants. And then not having the rights, this is when around Marvel Studios time was starting to become a reality. 2008 obviously was the first film in the with was it Iron Man? Yeah, it was Iron Man, right? And then Hulk?
Yes.
Yeah. I always get those two mixed up. Marvel's like, oh crap. What a blunder. We should have just been doing this ourselves the entire time. All right, let's devalue mutants as much as humanly possible. And they basically trumpeted the Avengers on the backs of their movies. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it wasn't as if they, just willed it into existence. But once the Avengers movie, especially in 2012, took off, on the comics side, they're like, we need to downplay mutants as much as humanly possible. The X-Men books definitely suffered a lack of attention. The Avengers books all got trumpeted. And all of a sudden, anytime a superhero person came in, whereas before they could just be written off as a mutant, they were suddenly Inhuman because Marvel owned the rights to the movie, owned the movie rights to Inhumans. So to me, that's the funny part about it. I know there's obviously been controversy in terms of a first Muslim character in Pakistani, but to me, as a comic book fan, that was the controversial part. To me, she should have been a mutant.
Mutants aren't the thing anymore, man. It's all about the Inhumans. It's all about Inhuman.
Well, no. Once the Inhumans, once the Inhumans series and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is off, and now that Disney bought,
but they
Fox,
never really were able to do anything with it. That's the problem. Marvel was never able to capitalize on it, and now they went ahead and bought the entire company that owned mutants now. So they go right back to everything being mutants.
Mutants are back. Mutants are back, baby. That's what we like to see. So
we'll see.
All right, lots of good stuff there. All right, Watchmen, Emmys, Roundup. So the Emmys kind of happened. It was a virtual event, sort of. And there was people in hazmat suits. It was kind of an S show, but fascinating.
COVID, man.
It was also
everybody wants to deny COVID exists, but then it keeps affecting all of our entertainment.
Yeah.
So
the big to do in our world was Damon Lindelof's Watchmen. It was nominated for 26 Emmys. It won 11, including Outstanding Limiting Series, Outstanding Lead Actress, and Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Limited Series for Regina King and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. Damon Lindelof won overall as well, too. I'll run down the lists real quick here. Ironically, no Best Directing, though. It had 3 directors up for awards, did not win any for Best Directing. Not that anyone really seems to care when it comes to TV. That's not a huge big deal. But, it was Best Outstanding Outstanding Series was given Damon Lindelof, accepted on this. Best Writing for a Limited Series, Lindelof and Cord Jefferson won as well. Little funny things, both Gene Smart and Jeremy Irons did not win, though. They did not take home the prize. How about that?
Yeah, all right. Jeremy Irons got his share. I don't know. I'm not gonna say he didn't deserve it or anything like that. I'm not gonna cat it off, but it is what it is.
Smart too. She's an Emmy darling. She's won for 24. She's won for a ton of stuff in the past. So that was a little, and she was really good. I don't know. Interesting. Maybe they just wanted to spread it around a little bit. The winner of the best overall drama. Now, this is where, again, kind of little nuggets of our world have seeped in. The Mandalorian and Stranger Things were both up for it. Succession. It's a big show. Do you watch that at all?
No. I've never actually seen it. I've heard a lot about it, though.
That and Billions. Everyone's like, you got to watch it. And I'm like, I do, but just, when am I going to find the time?
There's other stuff right now.
I'm busy watching The Mandalorian and Stranger Things. Tandy Newton. Is it Tandy or Tandy?
Tandy.
It's Tandy, right? It's a silent H. I thought so. She was up for Best Supporting Actress for Westworld. She did not win, which is okay. I'm all right with that. not because she's not a good actress, but we hate that show. Bad show.
I don't hate it. It's just not doing anything for me.
Jeffrey Wright also was up for Best Supporting Actor for Westworld. He did not take home the prize.
Boys. I don't know why we keep talking about The Boys. But
And Giancarlo Esposito, who is both in Mandalorian and The Boys. He was up for Best Supporting Actor, and he did not take home the prize for Better Call Saul. Hugh Jackman also was up for an award for Bad Education. He did not take home the prize. It was actually Mark Ruffalo, ironically enough. So Mark Ruffalo beat Jeremy Irons and Hugh Jackman in that category. That's a who's who. That's Wolverine versus the Hulk versus Ozymandias. Who wins in that fight?
Wolverine versus the Hulk versus Ozymandias?
Yeah.
Ozymandias.
You're going brains over brawn.
He beat Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, that's a good point.
So,
But, see, I would sit there and tell you...
And who out of Dr. Manhattan, the Hulk, and Wolverine would win, in your opinion?
Well, Dr. Manhattan should win.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. No, I love your logic. Here's my thing, though, right? Batman can beat anybody if he's got time to prepare. Spontaneous fight, I think he could be S out of luck depending on the circumstances. I think Ozymandias, same thing.
Sure. Anybody can be beat, but if we're doing simple mashup, that logic is ridiculous because anybody's got an off day. Even Superman can be beat. We're not talking about what about Superman off day when he's half blinded and he's really tired and he's just lost Lois. And if you dump enough on a character, then sure, the character's chances of winning are always going to diminish exponentially. So no, but we're just talking about all of them at their prime. Ozymandias. Let's be clear. Didn't beat Dr. Manhattan. He just outsmarted Dr. Manhattan, and he managed to successfully argue his case to Dr. Manhattan, to a guy who could snap his fingers and make him disappear. Right?
Correct.
So it stands to reason that if he was able to take that on and live, right, then Batman and Wolverine really wouldn't have much of a chance.
I think that's fair logic. I think I'll go with that. Is that your rant for today? No, we're going to save that for the end of the show. It's going to be great. All right, we've got Hassan's Corner coming up.
Your humor sucks.
We've got The Boys season 2, episodes 4 and 5 coming up. But coming up next, Wandavision. The honeymoon is over. We get to see the first trailer. Our reaction coming up next.
Welcome to Button Stash, the show about the best mustaches in gaming.
Casey, it's Button Smash. It's the new gaming podcast from the Rogue Matter Network. I don't know where you got mustaches from.
Well, I'm not shaving. But we will talk about gaming news, reviews, inside scoops, and retrospectives.
Join us live on twitch.tv/WeAreRogueMatter on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, or download our episodes wherever you listen to your podcast.
But please, Casey, shave.
Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind us. Join us every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast for the live stream. All right. It dropped, which was pretty cool. The first look at the new slate of Disney Plus series, which we thought was going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, but as we discussed last segment, it's not. It's going to be WandaVision. Initial reaction, Hassan, to the Wandavision trailer?
I'd say it looks pretty crazy, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
but it seems like you're kind of fishing around in the mind of someone who is traumatized, heavily traumatized.
Yeah, it's literally insane, but I love it. I love every second of it. Like Marvel tends to do, or seems to do, really well, or what they seem to do really well is take a product that you would have no interest in watching. Like, I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, Scarlet Witch and Vision, and kind of give it to you in a way. You would
have no interest in watching that.
What's that?
You would have no interest in watching that, you're saying.
Take it from the comics, right? Yeah. Like, I'd be like, really? Scarlet Witch and Vision series? That's pretty dull. Like, that's a dull thing. And then they come out with this, like, trippy trailer, and some S is going down.
It's weird that would be a reaction after 10 years of content. It's strange to me because whatever they announce, I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. Because they've not, in my opinion, they haven't really missed so far, even with Ant-Man. So I'll at least check it out. But I mean, if your immediate thought is like, well, that sounds dull. I think that's intriguing that it sounds dull, but it's probably not going to be dull because
I'm just saying we can't take it for we can't take for granted how well Marvel does these things. Is my point. Your reaction, your reaction is valid. It's just
I wouldn't say the most powerful character in the Marvel universe, and one of the most mysterious characters, Vision, in the Marvel universe, together in a show would be boring. My immediate opinion.
Juxtapose that with like a Loki series or a Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier series, like I'm psyched for that. Like I'm like, wow, this is gonna be like espionage, some spy stuff. Like I'm like immediately.
I just wouldn't find any of them. I just wouldn't immediately label any of them as boring.
I didn't say boring. I said dull. Dull's a little different than boring. No, it is. I'm just saying that my immediate reaction when you hear that it's going to be released, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Like, but this has happened so many times to where I agree with you. I give them the benefit of the doubt, but then to come out with a trailer like this that is so trippy and so off the wall. Catherine Hahn, who I love, I think she's amazing. She's going to be in it. Deborah Jo Rupp from That 70s Show. It just, there's a lot of things. Now, we also have
doing I Love Lucy kind of thing.
Right.
Doing her Ethel, what's it? Ethel Mertz?
Ethel Merman?
No, Ethel Merman is an actual. Yeah, Ethel Mertz. I think the Mertz.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Fred Mertz. I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm going back to youth at this point to mine to see if my 6-year-old self who was watching reruns of I Love Lucy picked up the last name.
We get it.
You're very short with me today here.
I'm short.
You're saving up for this rant. I'm very excited for this.
I don't have anything for the rant.
Oh, good.
I'm trying to get it all out here.
It's our best segment ever.
Yeah.
We as comic book insiders, people who have knowledge of the source material.
Are we though? Are we insiders? Really?
We have knowledge of the source material. A lot of people don't have knowledge.
Look,
Hassan, let me tell you right now.
Keep going.
I know you're kidding, but I want to toot our horns for a second.
Oh boy, don't do that. Things always go wrong when we do that.
I don't think so.
What's ever gone
wrong? Nothing's ever gone wrong.
What's ever gone wrong? Nothing. All right. Now that you've already jinxed us, go ahead.
Deadpool's
go right ahead. Go right into it. Yeah.
Deadpool's
something really bad's going to happen.
Dune's going to be terrible. See? Over the course of the Marvel Studios legacy, I mean, think about it now too, right? We're coming on, well, not quite 15 years, but over 10 years of Marvel Studios. Kids who grew up that were 7 are now 17. I mean, right? Put 10 years into perspective, right? Just 10 years. I mean, it's 13 years. So when Marvel Studios first came out, they're like 20 years old. So all they've done is grow up with Marvel Studios films. They generally, and this is just because of talking to comic book shop owners, they're generally not comic book fans. They might walk into a store and pick up a graphic novel, but they're not the ones necessarily picking up the monthlies and, been fans for years and years and years. So they only know the Marvel Studios versions of these characters. However, we know where Marvel Studios is drawing the material from. So the benefit of this, obviously, and I'm not saying we're the only ones. There's obviously people on our Facebook feed who are extremely knowledgeable of all the comic book stuff that comes before. James Massey is always commenting, and David Rosenberg. They're all, these guys, they know their stuff too, which is, giving a shout out to our fans, which is nice. That being said, I think the general public doesn't know a lot of this stuff. I'm wondering, based off this trailer, how much Avengers Disassembled we're going to get, especially when you bring up the kids, right? When Deborah Jo Rupp, who, from that 70s show, is like, why don't you have kids, blah, blah, blah. We know, and this is comic book spoilers, that Scarlet Witch literally willed her children into existence, because how does an android and a human have children? And so the trailer does have them holding kids. It does have this kind of trippy, mind scene going. So I happen to be holding it right here. Look at this. The New Avengers. Brian Michael Bendis. How much do you think that's going to play into this based off the trailer you saw?
I think that would be the main point of the entire story, right? That would be probably part of the main source material for this particular situation.
Yeah.
Especially if she's, and you're going to have to get as much mileage out of that as possible, because theoretically she's going to start becoming the villain,
right,
after this. Or, temporarily, she's going to be a problem after all this goes through. So whatever material you have that leads up to, the big event of the second Doctor Strange movie,
yep,
is going to be probably choice material that they're gonna mine from. So most likely, a lot of Disassemble will be there.
Yeah, I think so, and I think what's fascinating though is it leads into the Doctor Strange movie, not necessarily another Avengers movie. Not that they're going to do another Avengers movie, but maybe down the line, it will be the crux of, the next Avengers film. Or I guess Marvel has also set the precedent, right, at this point, where they don't even need to announce an Avengers movie to have the Avengers. I mean, Civil War was essentially supposed to be a Captain America movie, but it was essentially the third, Avengers movie, if you really think about it, right? And they took a major Avengers storyline and dropped it in there. So maybe Doctor Strange 2 is essentially going to be Avengers Disassembled at that point.
It could be. I mean, they're gonna have to find a new tentpole, definitely, and they're gonna have to build up to their momentum to find out exactly where their seasonal, annual, whatever is going to be. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, the Avengers served to speak comic book parlance. The Avengers basically served as the annual issue of whatever the MCU, whatever you would call the MCU in and of itself. So. And they use it to good effect. There's only really one of them that I found is slightly lackluster, so they got their mileage out of it. But going into phase, what are we now? Phase 5 we're about to head into?
I think phase 4.
Okay, whatever. I think it's phase 5. I think phase 4 was the end of was Endgame. The end of phase 4 was Endgame, but who knows? I think they're going to have to. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them to find their new momentum.
Is this phase 4? No, it's phase 4. Okay, good. Phase 4. Just double checking.
Are we in phase 4 or are we heading into phase?
Technically, yeah. I think the Eternals kicks off phase 4. I think Endgame was the end. Black Widow is Black Widow being a prequel. I guess kicks off phase 4 just because it's the next phase, but story-wise, because it's set beforehand, is not. The Eternals was supposed to kick off, I think, phase 4, and these Disney Plus shows. So interesting to see. A couple other little tidbits. Kat Dennings is going to be in the show. We know her from Thor, so that was kind of neat to. I know she wasn't in the trailer, but neat to just kind of see how they keep bringing back characters we've seen before. Tiana Paris reprises her role as Monica Rambeau. The last time we saw her, she was a child in the 1990s during Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, but now she is fully, grown up. And in the trailer, she's getting thrown out of the suburb, into darkness, surrounded by agents with guns. According to The Beat, they think it's from S.W.O.R.D., not S.H.I.E.L.D., which would make sense. Another Joss Whedon contribution to the Marvel Universe, which we've talked about before. And finally, Catherine Hahn, who we mentioned before, everyone's kind of thinking she's going to be Agatha Harkness, who is, again, from the comics major. And I love Catherine Hahn, so I'm glad she anything she's in, she's amazing. And so it looks pretty good. All right. Trailer, truth or trash? The boundaries for the question. Marvel takes an otherwise dull concept and puts a fresh spin on it. Based on this trailer, you think truth or trash?
I think truth. I think always truth.
Pretty obvious question, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't think of anything.
We already discussed it, though. We already talked about that just earlier. So
I know. I'm just
not really a reach, really.
Going with the full circle.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
When we come back, Hassan's favorite show, The Boys. We didn't even have time to go through episode 4 last week, so we're going to do episode 4 and 5. We're going to review both. Getting heated. Stormfront, Homelander, whole bunch of stuff. Hassan has not watched any of it and will ask me a ton of questions, and I'll tell you why it's amazing when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave podcast. Okay. The Boys, again, I mentioned it before. We didn't even have time to get into episode 4. Episode 4 was pretty good. Episode 5, though, was kind of over the top. I'm going to say this before we dive into the episode.
Over the top. What's over the top for The Boys, though? That's got to be.
There was some superhero sex. It was pretty. It was, and it was spoilers. Although it came out last Friday, so at this point, you should have watched it.
It's a tough titty.
Coming off of episodes 3 and 4, you kind of not that it wasn't a possibility, not that you didn't think about it, but you definitely didn't necessarily see it coming earlier in the season. So I thought that was actually pretty good. And yeah, it also had this scene in episode 5 where Homelander, So Homelander basically is being protested on social media, and this is why.
Well, okay, hold on. Start with episode 4, right? And let's go into what was episode 4 about? Or roughly, give a rough summary.
Episode
of
4
what
was as dull, to use the same word, as the show has gotten. It was a road trip with Mother's Milk, Huey, and Starlight came along with them. You got to see the little romance between Starlight and Huey, which was nice. But overall, what it did is drop one important puzzle piece into our laps as to who Stormfront is. However, we don't know really enough about the clue that they dropped, in my mind, to be like, wow, I can't believe it. It was, all right, that's interesting. Again, more interesting as it comes along. It also,
is it a good story or is it a bad story?
No, it's
whatever,
cool.
whatever secret that they uncovered.
The secret, Huey kind of sums it up in episode 5 as to what it means, kind of nicely. So, but again, it's not like one of those like bombshell kind of things where you're like, oh, they've been setting this up for years. It was more like, this is just more information that you need to know about Stormfront and as to why she, committed those heinous acts in episode 3 to begin with. Obviously we know from the comic that character is extremely, Nazi or racist, and they're playing up those. They're playing up those points in the.
You can tell from the name, the character's name, but
Yeah, well, but they're playing that up now. You're dropping more hints in the show now, and essentially, this character is very old. That's the one tidbit that was very
Stormfront. You mean?
Yeah, it's very fascinating to see. So there's some questions.
How old?
I mean, they're pinning her
like
Wolverine,
60 or 70,
60 or 70 years old at this point. Potentially.
Okay. Not quite Wolverine, but all right, okay.
So again, little drops that little mystery, little mystery box stuff for us to kind of figure out as we kind of go along. So that was pretty good. Episode 5, though, again, it sets up at the end of episode 3 that Homelander is going to have beef with Stormfront, and he does throughout until Stormfront kind of educates him on how publicity works nowadays. This is the part that I thought was pretty amazing. You and I, if we go on social media and we just give our opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately we are put into tribes. Immediately, we've discussed this many, many times, right? Like there's no nuance, there's no middle ground, there's no discussion.
Right.
That's why it's, to me, important for the arts to have TV shows, movies, books. These are the only place, music. These are the only places you can have discussions anymore. Even those end up, the people discussing them end up getting boxed into their corners when all is said and done.
Yeah.
But the ability to actually stress a nuanced point, I think the only way you can do that, if you get up there and say something that people disagree with as a person, they will immediately disagree with you and they'll immediately write you off. If Eric Cartman gets up there and you have an entire episode around Eric Cartman saying something that's controversial, but you're able to bring in, all these different angles, people will actually listen and digest it and be able to kind of comprehend the point. They'll still take the message however they want to and then use it for their tribes.
Yeah.
But at least creators have the ability, where I don't think we do anymore because of social media, to discuss things in a way that's detached. It's not the creator of the show saying this. It's these characters. So Stormfront educates Homelander on all this. You don't need, $2 million on a big budget of promotion, and he does this patriotic budget. You just need like 200,000 angry people to rally behind you. And
right.
And that is her lesson for him. And that is, she agrees to help him with his publicity and help him with his image right now, because it takes a hit because just like anything on social media, it's really quite comical and in the, very graphic boys style. There's a clip of him in some third world country battling very quickly a superpowered terrorist, as they like to put it. You know, people in other countries now that have these superpowers. He flies in, he uses his I-beams, he cuts the guy to shreds, he gives a wave, and leaves, not realizing that his I-beams went through the guy and killed somebody behind him who was an innocent bystander. In which case they had the cell phone, and he even makes the remark. He's like, "These guys can't eat, but they all have cell phones. Like, what's going on here? Like, you know, they're starving, but they have cell phones." But so his publicity takes a dive, right? His public
numbers,
image takes a dive.
His numbers take a dive, right? Yeah. His
and
ratings.
then so he actually tries to rectify it by confronting this angry group of protesters. And he lands where the congresswoman is like, we're going to hold hearings on this. And it's the congresswoman who popped up on TV in the first 3 episodes saying, you know, when and he's like, hey, look, you know, blah, blah. And he tries to say the military, you know, when you're out there in the front lines of the military, but there's someone from the military, he's like, you don't represent us. And it basically goes from bad to worse.
Yeah.
And it's,
which is what would happen if you tried to confront an angry mob.
Oh, absolutely.
Without much to say, right?
Absolutely. Okay. And don't get me wrong, there is some subtlety to the race relations too, because the soldier was black and Homelander is like he's the Aryan Nation, you know, representative. If you were to pick a physical representation of what the Aryan Nation would look like, I'm not saying that the actor is in any way shape.
There are overtones. You're saying there are overtones.
Yeah, it was definitely very well done. And then all of a sudden you see Homelander light up and just annihilate the crowd. But then you realize that's what he wanted to do. But instead,
so there was some restraint.
Yes,
in a Boys episode. All right,
but you got to see it. See, that's the beauty of it. The Boys does not like to stop. Does not like to take the foot off the gas pedal in terms of like shock value. And I was like, oh no,
yeah.
But
it's part of my issues with it.
That, because if he'd have done that, I mean, all bets are off as to where the series can go at this point. Because once Homelander, goes bad.
See, I would disagree with you. I don't think the series has anywhere to go once he comes out and actually does something. So? Yeah, I don't think it has legs after that.
Okay.
I think the slow burn of whatever is going, and he's the most interesting. He's the star of the show.
Yes.
It's not the Boys. It's not.
Right.
It's not Butcher.
Right.
It's not Huey or whatever. It's not any of these characters. It's basically Homelander carrying the entire show.
Yeah.
And so once he finally flips his wig, there's not going to be a lot of room for it. It's like it's Ray all over again. Once Ray beats Kylo, where's the rest of the story?
Right.
So, all right. So at least they were smart enough not to have him annihilated entire, because he's got it in him. He's already killed a whole bunch of people in the airplane.
Oh gosh,
in season 1. So it's not like it's not like teasing that is that much of a departure from where they've already gone.
Yeah. No. And this is the other thing I'll say too. On an aside, doesn't he look like Mark Paul Gosselaar from Saved by the Bell? Like when I watch him, I actually feel like Zach Morris is killing all these people. Like it's really.
Now that you mention it, I didn't see that.
You didn't see it, it's not like what Mark Paul Gosselaar looks like now. It's like what Zach Morris looked like back then, maybe a couple years older. So it was just like I'm like, Zach Morris, don't kill everybody.
Yeah, I think Gosselaar got rid of his Zach Morris.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Vibe.
Yeah.
Around NYPD Blue.
Yes.
When he was a cop. He did a pretty damn good job in that show that I remember. Replacing Ricky Schroeder, who, So, yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, I know.
That's not what we're talking about.
I just thought it was funny. So anyway,
I guess, but I only see it now that you mention it. I didn't see it before.
Go watch it. If you watch the show again, if you ever do.
No.
And watch him. It's once you know, you can't unknow. It's just one of those things. But I digress. Culminates in Stormfront using her social media mob to turn the tide with a bunch of memes and a bunch of folks on social media, and suddenly his Q rating goes back up again, and all of a sudden he's like not indebted to her, but he's like, oh, I owe you, and she's like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden it reminded me of oh god, what's the movie with the sex scene of the two superpowered people and they just destroy, oh my god, I can't believe it's slipping my Oh, Buffy. It actually reminded me of Buffy. Sorry. There's an episode of Buffy when her and Spike are in an abandoned building, and they just, him being a vampire and her being, super strong, they literally just demolished this building that was going to be demolished anyway. It reminded me of that, and they do it in like his office or whatever, or the wherever, and they just destroy the office. And there's this scene, they're hanging up, they're like literally like hanging. I mean, you could almost see the wires hanging, keeping them up there, which I thought was a little crappy in terms of special effects, but it was. So the thing that's very interesting about it again is, the way they set it up is that they were going to be rivals. But this makes more sense in the sense that she's a Nazi and he's a demigod. He's a psychopath. So it should be very interesting to see, where this goes from here.
Okay. Where can you go with a Nazi and a psychopath?
I don't know.
Interesting.
And using social media to propel you.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's some powerful allegory right there. But okay. All right.
Yeah. You like that? See, I'm telling you, dude, you got to get back into it. Now you're just not going to.
I've already explained that I think the nuance of it should have been that you slowly discover that these heroes are assholes. I think the fact that you reveal that they're not good people for the most part, that it kind of killed the novelty. It was a novelty for a minute, right? And then everybody's doing a kind of dark superhero thing now, right? So that's fine. It's just like, I mean, they're in episode, what is it? They're about to go into episode 5 this week. I think it's going to be episode 5. No, episode 6.
No, episode 6.
So they only got 3 episodes left of the season, because I think it's only an 8 episode season. Yeah. What have they done this season? What have we really uncovered?
Well, I mean, again, introducing storefronts and new characters, so we are uncovering bits about her and how she ties into all this. Vought has been outed now as having.
Okay, Vaught's been outed, but I mean, Vaught's been outed per story. Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But everything that Vaught's been outed for, we discovered last season.
Right. So
what are we as an audience discovering other than Stormfront? And she was already
Black Noir got to be kind of featured a little bit.
That's not a revelation. That's just a feat. That's.
Well, we don't know anything about him, so that's.
We still don't, though, do we?
We learned about Frenchie. We learned more about him, and we also learned about Kimiko's brother, and what her past was, which we did not know.
All right, that's 8 hours worth of entertainment that you got right there. I mean, we'll see where it goes.
It was very good.
I don't agree with you. But that's
all right. What do you guys think? Let us know. Comment in the Facebook feed if you are watching us on the live stream. If you are going to download us on a podcast, still check out the live stream. We comment back and forth, or we'll reply back on the YouTube channel as well. All right. When we come back, we're going to go spinning the racks. But before we do, we're going to introduce a little segment called Hassan's Corner. It's going to be epic when we come back. With a cape. No, anything. Yeah. Cape is always crazy. Cape is always crazy. Look, there are clowns walking the streets right now.
Right now.
There is no one dressed in a cape. Rogue Wave Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Streaming every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast, and available immediately following the live stream wherever major podcasts can be found. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave Podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast. Go to Rogue Wave Podcast. That's Wave without an E. To subscribe to our podcast on all major podcasting apps. Okay. Normally we go into Spin the Racks. However, I promised you last week that you would be first chair, but you refused and said, I don't want anything to do with first chair. You don't want to do the reads. You don't want to do the legwork. I understand. I get it. It's a lot of work. I do a lot. But I figured
that wasn't quite my take, but yeah, okay.
I figured I'd still hold up my end of the bargain here and give you your own corner. So, introducing Hassan's Corner, 3 minutes, whatever you want. Go.
This will not be a frequent thing because
it might be the most popular show we.
I doubt it. I'm gonna amend something that I said previously about the binging, phenomenon. About the originally the pitch for streaming services when we were all tethered together, connected by coaxial cable, was that this would be television on demand. It would, you'd be in the driver's seat, that you would be able to, binge. That term became popular. That was not a term before streaming, before Netflix and whatever, for pertaining to digesting material. 3 minutes, sir. You need to keep your mouth shut. Mute your mic. Okay, so, the selling point of it is like you're in the driver's seat, you're in charge. The other thing also is that Netflix and some of the burgeoning streaming services would pick up discarded television shows from network television and as a refuge, for your favorite shows to be able to, and they were doing it, of course, to get to drum up their content, to get viewership, to sell themselves as an alternative to the status quo of network television, of cable, of all this other stuff that were touted to being overly corporatized and overly controlled and marginalized kind of programming. And so in this case, you could watch what you want when you wanted, at the time you wanted, whenever you wanted, for however long you wanted. And, that worked for a while, and the streaming services became all the rage. Everybody, including, I think, your grandmother has a streaming channel, right? I do believe she does, right? And so, basically...
My grandmother's dead.
Well, that does not necessarily mean she does not have a channel, sir, okay? I do believe she does. I think you should check again, Mr. Dolce. Okay. Anyway...
My grandma.
How do you take that literally? Everybody and your grandmother. You're the only jerk would take that literally. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The services is now changing because the industry has changed. The circumstances have changed. COVID has changed a lot of stuff. Yes, it's altered. I think we're leaning very heavily on the streaming services for our entertainment because there are no movies anymore, and they're not making a lot of new shows. We find that a lot of shows are being canceled that were being picked up for second, third, or fourth seasons that are being canceled just because they can't continue with the production schedule because of the circumstances we find ourselves in now with this once in a century pandemic that we're going through. So they're amending their approach to binging in order to keep everybody interactive with their franchises for week after week, as opposed to having everybody be locked in for one weekend and then not be talking about their franchise anymore after that. And then my original take on it was that this was a bait and switch. Yeah. Well, not really, but sort of. Because I understand business-wise why they would need to do this. I do believe in the crux of my rant is that we are getting less. They are taking much longer to give us much less and less. I think The Boys is a perfect example of that, of having only 8 episodes and taking a darn long time to get to the point of whatever the point of the season is, because I don't really know what the point of this season is, right? Because they haven't addressed anything that they left us off with. They basically addressed the fact that Butcher's, wife is still alive and that Homelander has a son.
Episode 4, though, yeah, he tried to get her out.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
Right. Well, she didn't want
She
to
wanted to say, yeah. So, and then he got depressed all through episode 5. Okay, that's fine, right? I'm just saying, if they're going to alter this format and go back to weekly, they need to alter the format of the way they produce these shows. Because I have determined, or I have discovered, that a lot of these shows don't have 3 acts. Because they're being made to be basically 8 to 10 to 13-hour movies. So that means episodically, each episode doesn't have 3 full acts. They basically have 2 acts and then a cliffhanger to get you to come back for the next show, which works if you're binging. It does not work week to week. Weekly, you get 3 acts. You get a full episode, 1, 2, 3 acts with maybe a slight resolution, at least a resolution to whatever problem was introduced per episode, and then whatever the cliffhanger, whatever the holdover is for the next week. These shows don't even have a 3rd act. And I think if they're going to do this, and you know they are, because it's going to be cost effective for them to stop the binging, and then, and they're trying to sell it to us as a proper alternative of us getting what we actually deserve. We're going to put an end to this binging thing, and we're going to keep you engaged, and we're going to give you more content that's the price of your engagement. And I don't really agree that it's more engagement. But I think that if they're going to switch the format, they need to go back to network, because not to network television, but the format of network, because the format of network actually gave you full episodes, and I don't believe what we're getting now are full, authentic 3-dimensional pieces of episodic celluloid entertainment.
And that was Hassan's 3-minute rant that went for 6 minutes, but that's okay.
That's right, because I'm taking.
That was double. That was like you made up.
I'm taking time for myself from next week.
Yeah,
so I don't have to do this next week.
We are big fanboys of comics and graphic novels. We like to bring you the inside info and the source material that will make its way onto the large and small screen. We call this segment "Spinning the Racks."
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Put a timer up.
You did well. It was good. I like it. It was good. All right. DC announces DC Universe Infinite Comics subscription service. This is from the Comics Beat website. Heidi McDonald. Go check out their website. DC continues its expansion into the world of digital comics today with the official announcement of DC Universe Infinite, a premium digital comic book service that is evolving out of the DC Universe streaming channel. Service launches on January 21st, 2021, with global expansion planned for summer 2021. Subs will cost $7.99 a month or $74 a year. Media content on DC Universe, as long suspected, is being folded into HBO Max, with a 3rd season of the Harley Quinn series announced as a Max original going forward, and Doom Patrol, Young Justice, Titans, all that stuff. DC Stargirl Season 1 will also be available. DC Universe Infinite will be the home for more than 24,000 comics, including a growing slate of digital originals, all available for both the iOS and Android. Published comics will hit the service 6 months after print is available. It will also be the home base for DC fans. Jim Lee kind of said in a statement, our fans love the platform's robust library of comic books, and with the transformation, we will not disappoint. I'm excited to share that not only will DC Universe Infinite members still be able to read all the great comics they've enjoyed, but new issues are debuting on a platform quicker than before. So this is another example now of DC kind of taking the bulls by the horns here and evolving.
Changing the industry.
Yeah.
Just outright changing the industry through necessity.
Marvel has a Marvel Unlimited plan also. We talk about the death of the comic book retailer.
But DC has been beating Marvel to the punch of making these announcements and making these changes like pretty steadily.
Yes.
In this year. This is DC's year, basically.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I will absolutely agree with you. No question about it. We talk about the death of the comic book retailer a lot when we talk Spin the Racks and digital comics. One thing we don't really talk about is the death of Comixology. For those that don't know, Comixology is the home for all different, basically it's a comic book shop on your phone, for lack of a better term. They have all, they have indie titles. The Sire is on it. We'll have some Rogue Matter stuff up in there as well, too, I'm sure. Image Comics is up there. Dark Horse is up there. DC, Marvel. The The one caveat, again, supporting the comic book retailers, though, is that they don't put the same day stuff up there, or if they do, I think it's the same price, even though it shouldn't be. It's digital. There's no printing costs. It shouldn't cost $5.99 for a digital comic, but they do that. They might discount it later on, like 6 months later. I would buy some of my Image titles that I don't want to buy in the comic book store that the comic book store doesn't carry, and I don't feel like having them, hold it for me because it's not necessarily – I want to try stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would put stuff on sale later, a few months down the road, and then so you'd buy it instead of $5.99, you buy it for $1.99 later on, or do Comixology Unlimited, which I do also now, and you can get a blanket of new stuff in there. But with these announcements of digital, with digital seemingly I feel like once that retailer threshold kind of ends, which eventually I think it will. I think DC Marvel are going to have no choice but to end their affiliations with these retailers. That's when Comixology is going to start suffering. Or is it going to be no, not even or is it going to be? I mean, we're seeing this in the streaming services now, right? I mean, everyone's got their own streaming service and people are used to this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be
it's here to stay. There's no changing it,
Yeah. I'm waiting for the day when Comixology stops being the destination for Marvel and DC. That Marvel and DC just say, you know what? We got our own stuff.
We could stream our own. We can do our own digital books and make them available. And then they could do exclusives and stuff like that. But the problem with that is that it's the same with Diamond. And I'm not saying something positive about Diamond, but there was a sense of quality control. And then once everybody starts going at it on their own, going their own, you may lose some quality control. It may up the game for quality control, but neither of the two major franchises, major companies, major industries are going to be held to the same standard anymore. They could buck their own standards. They could buck the trend.
Yeah.
They can make circular comic books. They can do whatever they want. Yeah,
I think they do already. I mean, that's
but I mean, they're held to some kind. At least they're held by format.
Right.
They're held because of the use of distribution of their wares. Same as with the stores. The stores have a certain accommodation for the format of whatever they're putting on their shelves, right?
Yeah.
So comics have to have a specific dimension, have to have a specific size or whatever in order to fit on the shelves with the rest of the stuff. Just basically, basic retail stuff. If they're not beholden to that format, then comic books can become just about anything at that point. And then because they're competing directly with each other now, and they're not competing in a fixed market, they may be upping the ante on a regular basis in order to fight with their only competition in the field.
Now, one advantage Comixology has over the individual apps is the process by which you can read the panel to panel. They kind of not inspired that they created that in a way, right? So that they pioneered that. That's the word I'm looking for. They pioneered the panel to panel view on your phone, which is great. That requires a lot of man hours to be honest with you. Chopping up
you
all
can
this
tell.
stuff.
You can tell.
I mean, there's no question. I mean, they're graphic designers. I mean, I visited the Comixology offices. I mean, they're just graphic designers. That's all they're doing. They're just chopping up panels all day long, and that's what they're paid to do. And
Marvel and DC may have to spend a lot of money to do market research, perhaps doing motion comics to the point where they're almost
which they do. I mean, they do, and Marvel's dabbled in the podcast world, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. It becomes a point to which Marvel and DC are not going to be creating comics. They're just a brand that owns characters, and you're going to get comic book characters in all kinds of different formats through these digital streaming, which, look, I love floppies, and that's what Kickstarter's for now. I mean, Kickstarter is essentially, if you still want these printed books, you can still get these printed books, but they're going to be such limited runs. The comic book retailer, forget that. But Comixology, the other thing that they had, which they recently announced also, is they did Comixology Originals. So they actually hired talent and came up with their own concepts and stories. That was fought against by, again, comic book retailers saying, well, how are they going to get these comics? You are going to force people to only use the app. Once they use the app, they're going to stop going to comic book shops. They just partnered up with Dark Horse, who is also reeling and they're going to be releasing these as Dark Horse Comics. So, Comixology, they're not in any danger of going away yet, but with all the talk of comic book retailers going away, it'd be interesting to see. Comixology was able to jump on something 10 years ago that was brand new, which was apps. And after a while, you kind of sit there and say, okay, technology ain't new anymore. What else you got? And it'd be interesting to see what they can kind of muster in all this.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic show. One of our best. I think Hassan's 6-minute rant, unbelievable. We're going to break it up into 2 segments for no, I'm just kidding. Overall, really great. Next week, we're going to keep doing what we do. We're just going to find more stuff and talk about it and dissect it. And
don't make any promises. Never make any promises.
Well, I'm going to watch Boys season 2, episode 6. And you've secretly watched it. You had too much insider knowledge. I know you did. I know it.
I deny that. Totally deny that.
We're going to make a convert out of you. Your rant in 4 weeks is going to be how The Boys is the best show on TV. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Rogue Wave.